Welcome to the Ansible Service Broker Sprint 3 demo. This sprint, we implemented the bind API. It's used to provide credentials and coordinates and other relevant information to external or other services to be consumed by other Ansible apps. We will provision an external mlab Ansible app. This app will create a service and an endpoint that will be used to connect to mlab. Then we will use the bind API to create a bind instance to mlab. And lastly, we'll provision a sample guestbook app that uses the mlab binding. What we have here are 4 windows. The top left, this is the Ansible Service Broker. On the top right, this is the environment we will use to show the pods and things that are created by the Ansible Service Broker. And on the bottom left quadrant is the ASB CLI tool that we use to drive the Ansible Service Broker. About this information. Ideally, the hope is to be able to use an API key and programmatically create credentials. Say, for instance, if we wanted to do an Amazon S3 or some other external service, at this point, when we would provision this Ansible app, we would pass in the API key that can be used during the bind call to create the users dynamically. Also, the person that would create or deploy this, create the binding, and potentially provision the guestbook or the app that uses mlab could be 2 different people. You could have a admin that sets this up, and then possibly another user that wants to deploy their application to use this mlab binding that's available in the cluster. Okay, so now we've provisioned the mlab Ansible app, which creates a service and a binding. So if we go up to the top left, we'll see that the pod was created. Now we see that the Zeus project was created. Now, let's create a binding. Here we have a binding. Let's configure this binding. we're going to want to use duder1. This tells the bind which account to use during the bind process. Again, if we were able to do this via programmatically, the previous set wouldn't have to be passed in. Here we could select possibly a set of users that are available or enter the one that we do want to use. If you look up at the top left, we now have a binding that is created. Got back the credentials. So now we've provisioned the external mlab Ansible app. Now we've created the binding. Now at this point, we want to create or provision a application that uses this binding. So let's go ahead and provision. We've written this Fuser guestbook Ansible app. ASB CLI here notices that there was a binding that was previously created, so it prompts to ask you if you want to use that binding with this app that we want to provision, and yes, we do. This was the binding we created earlier. If there were others, it would give you a list of them. We would choose the binding we want to use, this particular one. Now if we go up to the service here, we will notice that we've provisioned the guestbook app, created the pod. You'll see the 3 pods that are completed. Go ahead and use the OC Zeus project. We have the route for the guestbook app. Let's go ahead and visit that app. As you can see, this is the guestbook app. Let's create a new post. Sprint 3 demo. Hello everyone. Submit a post. So there you go. We provisioned an external mlab application that created a service and an endpoint, created a bind. Then we provisioned a guestbook application that uses the bind that we created previously. Thanks for watching. See you next time.